Hello, everyone. Welcome to our immune boosting recipe workshop breakout session tonight. It is a delight to have all of you here. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Sandra Vrejan. I'm a finance and restructuring partner at Morgan Lewis and Bockius here in Boston. Like for many of us here tonight, Tina Brosman was a special person in my life. She was my mentor. She was also a role model, someone that I very much looked up to. She was the very first judge I ever appeared in front of in the Southern District of New York as a brand new, newly minted baby lawyer. And years later, we would start at our predecessor firm on the very same day. It was a privilege to have had her in my life. And to this day, I am sorry that she was taken from us too soon. Tina and I would talk about food often. So it's very apropos that we are going to be talking about food tonight. It's also very important to me that we continue the legacy of early detection because, as I said, Tina was taken from us too soon. So it's my delight to introduce tonight two of our wonderful speakers. We have with us tonight nutritionist Hannah Dalpiaz from Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Hello, Hannah. And we also have the wonderful chef Elle Simone Scott from America's Test Kitchen and also an ovarian cancer survivor. So I get to ask them some questions tonight and to have them speak to all of us about their expertise and their knowledge. And then we're going to give each of you an opportunity to also ask questions as well through the chat. And I'll be monitoring those as best I can. We welcome your support this evening. And one of the ways that you can show your support is by making a donation. On the screen, you should be seeing the link for the donation, the address, sorry, for the donation site. As I mentioned, think of all of the women in our lives that could potentially be helped by early detection. Early detection saves 150,000 lives a year. Think about that number, 150,000 lives a year. And so it is an important cause and hopefully a cause that can help save many women's lives and certainly a cause that's personally important to me. As you may have heard in the prior session, we have a matching challenge tonight. There's been a challenge of $5,000. So every donation up to $5,000 will be matched tonight. And we are also raffling off a copy of the book that Elle is going to be cooking from this evening, Bowls, Vibrant Recipes with Endless Possibilities, from America's Test Kitchen to all of the registrants from this session. So we look forward to cooking tonight and learning more about food and perhaps seeing a little bit more about what's in that cookbook, but we'll see. So Elle, we're very excited to have you here with us tonight. Can you share a little bit about the recipe that you've chosen and why you chose it?
Sure. The recipe that I chose is the Buddha bowl. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Elle. Let's see.
Okay. I chose the Buddha bowl for a couple of reasons. One, because it has all the things in it that I really like to eat. And since I have to cook it here and eat it for dinner, might as well be one of my favorites. The second reason is that from what I've learned, during my learning time in ovarian cancer, there are some superfoods that really help our bodies to stay strong and sustained. And a lot of those ingredients are in this recipe. There's turmeric, there's pepper, there's chickpeas, sweet potatoes, so many things, so many antioxidant foods. And I know we're going to talk about a lot of that today, so I won't get too far in it. But are you ready for me to go into a little more details about the ingredients?
Absolutely, go for it. We'd love to learn more. Tell us a little bit too about when one of the ingredients is a power food. I think that would be terrific to know.
Sure. All right. So while I talk to you, my cauliflower was in its last 3 minutes of drying out. So we'll start there. So this recipe calls for only half a head of cauliflower, right? And so we already know vegetables are good for you. And to show you how far half a head of cauliflower can go, this is like really a budget-friendly meal, which is always great. It's mostly ingredients that you already have in your home, more than likely. So I used half a head of cauliflower. I took the core out, and cut it into 1-inch pieces, which I put in the food processor, just pulsing about 6 to 8 times to get the cauliflower to be about 1/8 of an inch piece, right? This is basically cauliflower rice, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you hear everyone raging about. We just made cauliflower rice. And I added to the pan some extra virgin olive oil, turmeric, superfood thing, red pepper flakes, and garlic. And as you can see, that turmeric gives our rice not only a beautiful flavor, but also a really beautiful color. And it's been in this pan with the lid on for about 10 to 12 minutes. So basically, there was like a half a cup of water in there. So that's to help soften the cauliflower, but it also has a lot of moisture to it. So this cooking for 10 to 15 minutes helps to dry it out. This last 3 minutes is really going to dry it a little bit more. And it's over medium-low heat, so it's not a full blast. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just requires a little bit of tending to. So you'll stir it occasionally. You don't have to get futzy over it. It doesn't require that. So this last 3 minutes, I think, has really been good. I'm going to add a cup of baby spinach, superfood, right?
That and I'm just completely amazing.
It's the ease in which this recipe is really made. So there are a couple of add-on ingredients while I let this spinach kind of start to wilt. It only takes about 30 seconds, but I'll tell you about the add-ons. These are some things you can do make ahead, right? You think you want to have Buddha bowl for lunch tomorrow. And a lot of the ingredients in the bowls book have some prep things that you can do and just have around the house. So you can build bowls all day, every day. I roasted a pound of sweet potatoes, just sliced and roasted, just about 15 minutes. It didn't take long, and you can do that ahead. I did it last night, put it in the fridge, warmed it today. There's also a recipe for a lot of dry food toppings in the book. My favorite is the Indian spice crispy chickpeas. These were roasted in the oven. Also a very simple recipe that takes a little bit of time. And as long as you store them in an airtight container, you can keep them for up to 2 weeks, right? So I have these here, and these are all the toppings. Give this a stir. Asking for.
I love all of that, Elle. It reminds me that one of the things that I've definitely been a little bit of a challenge as we've all been working from home in quarantine is figuring out what food I'm going to prepare so that my children don't eat junk at lunchtime. And you've just made me realize that this is something that I could easily do ahead of time, that they could then, build on their own, which they always like doing because, they're teenagers. So they like to make their own thing.
Right. They can just get a bowl. You can eat this Buddha bowl hot or cold, so it doesn't necessarily have to be hot. Once you make it, you can eat it right out of the fridge. The other make ahead thing that I really love, and the recipe is vegan, which is exciting because a lot of y'all may not know, but I call myself the weekday vegan, the weekend carnivore. So I should be having vegan today. So I thought let me be a good example for my friends at Tina's Wish. So I made the dressing, and this is a creamless, creamy, roasted red pepper dressing, tahini dressing. So there's a little sherry vinegar in here, which gives it a really great kick. My mom, who she's not a huge fan of all vegetables, love this dressing. The kids will love it. Don't tell them there's chickpeas in it. Don't even tell them the ingredients. Just let them eat it. But there's a jar of roasted red peppers in here that I chopped up. There's some tahini, sherry vinegar, and of course cashews, because how else are you making vegan dressing with cashews? So all of these things were make ahead. I made last night. The sweet potatoes, the chickpeas, and the dressing were all made last night. I actually thought about making the cauliflower rice in the food processor last night, but I wanted it fresh. So I did that this morning, and it literally took all of maybe 10 minutes of my morning, right? So I was already ready this morning.
Let me ask you another question on that. I happen to be particularly lazy when it comes to things like food processors, because then you always have to clean them. Could you kind of do a rough chop and end up at around the same effect? Or is your recommendation really to actually go through and pull out the food processor?
I mean, if you want it to be the consistency of rice, which is kind of the play on the Buddha bowl, I would say use a food processor, but you can also use, your box grater, and use the thicker holes. You can do that, that would get it pretty small. And then some of it will just kind of break up as you're trying to grate it naturally. Because even when I was cutting in the food processor, it was just crumbling. A good fresh head of cauliflower is tender to the touch, so it'll just crumble. And you can finish off with your knife. Its consistency depends on what you like,
Yeah. So Hannah, let me turn to you for a minute. I think that on everyone's mind is what ingredients people should gravitate to boost immunity. And you happen to be a walking encyclopedia on the topic. So tell us a little bit about the ingredients that Elle chose tonight, and how people can focus their food choices to really boost that immunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm really excited for this recipe tonight as well, and to try it. And just as you mentioned, right now, I think the immune system is kind of on the front of everyone's mind, not only in terms of cancer, but just with everything else going on in the world right now. It's a hot topic. So to take a step back, the immune system itself is really a complex network of cells, organs, proteins within our body that help keep us healthy. And while there's maybe not one magic superfood to really build the immune system, by focusing on healthful eating, balanced meal planning, all of these aspects can really help strengthen the building blocks of our immune system and hopefully give us that extra protective benefit. So even when we think about tonight's recipe, I frequently encourage clients to really focus on finding ways to add that lean protein into your meal. Try and focus on ways to add a fruit or a vegetable at every meal, and some kind of really healthful carbohydrate. So in the meal we've got tonight, we've really kind of already checked all of those boxes. We've got our lean protein is that plant-based protein in the form of the chickpeas. That's a great way to add in. You're also getting a little bit of a kick of protein even from the dressing, where you've got the cashews mixed in there. The tahini is also an excellent source with the sesame base. We oftentimes also want to look for, when we think about those vegetables, there's no one that you have to include. So if you're not a fan of kale, I'm not here to tell you that you have to eat kale and it's the magic food. We know that different colored foods have different immune boosting properties. So, even in this recipe, if you really can't stand spinach, there certainly are other greens that you could swap out in place of that, or kind of mix and match. So in the recipe tonight, we're checking the box of these vegetables in the form of the sweet potato. We've got the spinach. We've got the red pepper in there. Elle already alluded to the turmeric. So that's another really great immune boosting food. We know those rich, colorful foods, part of where they get their immune benefit is their color. That's how plants express their immune system, is by what colors they are. So the turmeric in particular, its active ingredient is curcumin, and that's what gives it really its anti-inflammatory and potentially immune modulating benefits. And it's actually even more active when you pair it with foods that have piperin, which is found in pepper, and even red pepper. So this recipe not only is going to give you that immune boost from the turmeric or the curcumin, but we're actually enhancing your body's ability to use that by pairing that with the roasted red pepper and the crushed red pepper. So that's an excellent source even in this recipe right here. The one other thing I'll mention,
no, I hadn't realized that combination, the importance of that combination. I'm glad you mentioned it. Sorry for interrupting, Hannah.
No, that's okay. We also know that heart-healthy fats in the diet are also anti-inflammatory. So in this recipe, Al mentioned you're sauteing up the cauliflower rice in the olive oil. So oils are an excellent source of heart-healthy fat. Avocado, which Al will be adding in a little bit later, is also a really excellent source of heart-healthy fat, as is the tahini, the cashews, those nut-based sources too. So this is just chock full of really excellent immune boosting foods.
Hannah, are there different foods for different diseases that are important to focus on, or that people should keep in mind as they're battling something like this?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes, absolutely. The long answer, I think, is that every disease state may have specific ins and outs based on kind of symptoms or what someone is experiencing. The good news is, I think, broadly in these types of recipes, a lot of these foods are going to have benefit regardless of what kind of inflammatory disease condition you might be experiencing. But this is maybe another great plug for that can be a role for anyone to meet with a dietitian. I think sometimes we get maybe a reputation that all dietitians do is help with weight loss counseling, but really there's a very broad scope to what a dietitian can help with, and that could look like if you're experiencing a particular health condition, kind of navigating recipes or meal planning to find something that really best suits your individual needs as well.
Thank you, Hannah. Great advice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Elle, how are things going over there?
Really good. We're moving so fast. It's time to put all of our healthy toppings on our delicious cauliflower rice.
All right.
So I'm a food stylist, so I'm very particular about it, but you don't have to be. So I'm not going to be as particular as I would be if I were at work, but I'm just going to make a little row of sweet potatoes there. I really like sweet potatoes. I just like the texture, especially once they've been roasted. How does that look, guys? Give me some thumbs up.
That looks amazing.
All right, so we got that. I'm gonna spoon in some of these crispy chickpeas. These are like croutons in my world. I'm like, I can never have too many. I was actually eating them as I was cooking them. All right, we got that. And I'm going to
Elle, any ideas on substitutions? I have a child who's allergic. I also am not as good a planner maybe as I should be. So I'm, sometimes running out of something, even though I had planned on making the recipe, later on in the week. If someone bumps into that type of an issue and has run out of an ingredient, what are some good ideas on substitutions?
Well, the thing about the Bowls book in general is that although it has some really great recipes for a plethora of bowls, we actually offer an index where it tells you all types of dressings you can make, chili jams, you will always have something in your house that can work. There are pickled toppings, right? I mean, right down to quick pickled carrot ribbons. And these are all quick things, quick sweet and spicy pickled red onions. If you by chance don't have something that a recipe calls for, if you like any of these other things, you can add it. Building a bowl is really a personal experience, right? We give you suggestions. Here are some traditional bowls. Some of them are regional. Some of them are classic favorites, like chicken chow mein bowl, and even in the very beginning, we talk about all the different things that you can use to build a bowl, from zoodles to noodles to cauliflower to actual rice to just lettuce, you know, like, or just roasted vegetables. Bowls are subjective, and that's why it's called the Vibrant Recipes with Endless Possibilities. Like, you can never go wrong. Like, substitution is whatever you want. You don't even have to call it a substitution. It just is whatever kind of bowl that you like. And we just give you some tools, things you can have pre-made in the house, things you can make because you have more onions than you care to have during, you know, your staying home in place, you know. It's endless. You can do whatever you want, you know. So there's no such thing as substitutions here. It's put whatever you want in the bowl.
That is great. Elle, tell us a little bit about your journey and your relationship with food through your journey. Did your focus on food change? Did your strategy around food change as you were going through your journey with ovarian cancer?
My focus on food, that's kind of a twofold answer. I mean, I work with food. It's part of my everyday job at America's Test Kitchen. And when I was going through treatment, it was difficult, it's challenging, because a lot of my job involves tasting foods in the stages in which we're building recipes. And food didn't taste the same for me. So it was very hard to participate in that part of my job. Fortunately, I'm also a food stylist, so there's a part of my job that does not require the tasting, and that was fine. But it definitely caused me to like really evaluate what I'm eating, how it tastes for me, and how it makes me feel, you know. I didn't immediately go into like suddenly eating extremely healthy. When I was going through treatment, I ate what made me feel good. I ate what made me feel full. And, you know, with my doctor's support, he's like, my oncologist said, you know, eat for sustenance right now. You can, when treatment is over and, you know, you can tolerate more things are more palatable for you, then, you know, you can make a conscious decision about how you want to be eating. But for now, eat for sustenance, eat for comfort. You know, I mean, I didn't go bananas, but I did really have a strong affinity for a cup of noodles and crackers and hot sauce. But it was the thing that made my taste buds dance when a lot of things did not. So, but I did still love things like I'm eating today. I loved crispy things like chickpea, you know, fried chickpeas. I loved sweet potatoes because the texture was very easy when I felt a little yucky after chemo. You know, I did lean towards the things that were more like comfort foods, and I figured out what that was for me, because it's not the same for everyone, and it is certainly not the same as it is in your regular day-to-day life.
Thank you for sharing that, Elle. I think that's an excellent reminder of the fact that it's really important to be kind to yourself, in particular when you're going through something that monumental. Thank you for that. So, Hannah, you've already talked a little bit about when to integrate a nutritionist. I see an awful lot of questions in the chat that I definitely want to get to. We're also getting close to the hour. So what I'm going to do is give everyone an update as to where we stand, and then we can certainly stay after and answer more of the questions that have come up in the chat, if that makes sense for everybody. I know that tonight we've shared, and I'll have Caroline correct me if I'm wrong, but I see in the chat that we have shared that we have raised, I believe, $43,900. And if I'm wrong, Caroline will tell me quickly, and I'll update the group. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their support tonight. And again, if people would like to donate, you should have the information on the donation link available on the screen. Another way to show your support for Tina's Wish is also to link with Tina's Wish on the variety of social media platforms that Tina's Wish participates in. That was a tongue twister. From LinkedIn to Facebook to Instagram. And so that's another way to show support for the cause and to show the, to continue to advance the mission of early detection so that we save more wonderful women's lives. I'm going to but turn to the chat, and before I do that, want to thank everyone here tonight for joining, and a heartfelt thank you also for all of the support this evening. This has been a wonderful turnout and truly wonderful support of the organization tonight. So thank you for all of that. I'm going to check the chat and start going through questions in the chat. And Hannah, while I do that, if you want to talk a little bit about when to choose a nutritionist, and then we can go back to Elle and have her show us the final product.
Certainly. So as I kind of alluded to already, there are kind of endless possibilities for reasons for checking in with a dietitian. Some that come to mind, management of blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, if you're having digestive problems, food allergies, pregnancy, new parents, infertility, sports performance, enhancement. The possibilities really are endless. One other thing I will mention is if you are in need of a dietitian, I specifically work through Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So a lot of hospitals or cancer treatment centers do have dietitians on staff who your doctors can refer you to. Another great resource is the Academy for Nutrition and Dietetics, and their website is eatright.org. And through that, you can actually, anyone who's licensed as a dietitian, you can seek out people who are local to you that way as well if you're looking to partner with someone directly.
Thank you, Hannah. So Elle, and Hannah, we've gotten some questions in the chat about different allergies. So a question as to if you're allergic to avocado, what could be a suggested substitution?
If you're allergic to avocado, just skip the avocado. You don't need it. It just adds a creamy texture. You could probably get that same thing from using your favorite ranch dressing or using a cheese. You know, it's that kind of that same texture. So you don't, it's not, there's nothing in this bowl that is required. You can have whatever you like in this bowl. But to substitute for avocado in this bowl, I would say maybe a feta cheese. Maybe a goat cheese.
Yummy.
A soft cheese like that.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, Hannah and Elle, thank you both so much for supporting Tina's Wish and for sharing all of that wealth of knowledge and skill with all of us tonight. It was a ton of fun to cook with the two of you. I am eager to try the recipe on my own and see if I can actually get, ooh, that looks so good. Thank you, Elle. We will be sending out a recording of this session and also information as to the recipes. I know that earlier in the evening there was a question in the chat looking for a recipe for the wonderful dressing that you had mentioned, Elle. So hopefully that'll be a part of what's shared as well, because that certainly looked unbelievable. So that should be coming through. And as I mentioned, there's also going to be a raffle of the cookbook that Elle was using this evening to prepare her wonderful feast for us. And I look forward to digging into that as well. So thank you all again for joining all of us. And thank you very much for all of the support of Tina's Wish. We very much appreciate the support and the continued generosity for early detection of ovarian cancer.